Hello，大家好，我是 X 啊。嘿，嗯，我们今天是2026年7月26日，星期日。OK，今天跟大家分享一个顾朝明，日本野村的综合研究所的这个顾朝明啊，但是他呢是在日本跟美国两边的这个文化环境当中，他中文其实说的并不好啊，他主要是说英文为主。呃，他最近刚发表了一个2026年下半年的全球经济趋势的一个报告。有1个小时，我觉得非常有质量。我们分3次，因为它内容也是分3段，把它跟大家分享一下。今天我们先跟大家分享这个第一段啊。那它的这个3段的主要的包含的内容呢，第一段呢主要是讲美国现在的经济处于的一个总体的一个状况，并且呢谈到了这个川普美国、以色列还有伊朗他们之间的这个博弈的这个关系，还有呢 AI 发展它现在呢还有能源短缺这些扎堆的问题之间可能会有什么隐患和他的一些思考。然后呢，第二段主要是讲的是美国的汇率问题和贸易逆差的这个问题。然后看得很远，看的是从40年前的广场协议开始看，那么里边也有一些观点呢是我们之前的话别的人那里没有听到的我在第二段跟大家分享。然后第三段呢是他谈到的关于美联储新的主席沃什他是怎么样一个人，然后呢他原来是什么态度，现在准备采取什么措施然后呢川普跟他之间大家互相是怎么一个理解然后呢未来可能这个关系会发生什么变化，然后呢未来这个利率会怎么走，然后呢沃什会可能会采取什么措施，然后呢还有一些图表它的图表并不多，但是这两张图表非常非常好，这几张就是谈到了这个美国的扩表还有缩表，还有这个美国的这个银行的储备金和实际的贷款之间的一些关系这里边这个经济关系我觉得非常非常好。那我们为了便于理解呢，我们还是不要跳，我们先看从它的这个一开头这张开始跳，一来看。那它这个是从另外一个油管频道上面拿来的这个，但是没关系这个我觉得网上是应该是公开的这个大家去搜一下这个名字应该都能搜得到如果大家喜欢的话呢，可以先去自己去听我今天先放第一段，然后呢再来中间可能会停顿一下，跟大家来探讨一下我个人的一些理解和思考和偏见好，我们开始
I like to talk about world economy at the crossroads and end of American-led global order today, but maybe it's not the end of American-led global order. It's the beginning of American-led global disorder. Because so many things are happening starting in the United States. Some are good, some are horrible, and some are still uncertain. So what I like to talk about today is basically 3 things, and maybe 4 if we have the time, that is affecting the global economy in very big way. One is the One of them is already discussed, this AI investment. This is the 500-pound gorilla in the room. It is so big, in fact, that other factors, some people will say other factors don't matter all that much. The war in Iran, big deal. Protectionism, it's a sideshow. This AI revolution is the thing. And I'm sure you have heard many of this all over the place. And of course, Taiwan is a huge beneficiary of this AI revolution, because to do this AI, they need all the chips from Taiwan that Taiwan can produce. And some South Korea, some Japan, but this is where the action is. So it's great that so many companies, so-called hyperscalers in the United States, are spending $500 billion, $700 billion to put together these data centers. And they need all the equipment that we can produce, because so many of them are only produced here in Taiwan. So yes, this AI investment boom is a great thing. I also believe that AI is one of the biggest transformation of human society in the sense that when the Industrial Revolution happened with science and technology, all of those were basically helping human beings below the neck, right? With machines, we can make things faster, more precise, stronger, but not above the neck. But with AI, they're now helping us above the neck. We can get all this information that humans have collected over the centuries very quickly, and they even let you help you analyze these numbers to make sense out of those numbers. So in that sense, this is a huge revolution. We should never underestimate the impact this is going to have going forward. And it's so glad that Taiwan is part of it, a very important part of it, because that's benefiting this economy massively. But even though I am no expert on AI, there's one thing that bothers me, and that is that so many companies that are building up these data centers, they are not making money on AI yet. Some are, of course, making money, but nothing to justify the kind of money that they're spending on their data centers and investments. Some of them are even thinking of putting together nuclear power plants next to the AI data centers so that those data centers will have enough electricity. But that's why the amounts are so large, and that's why, in some sense, the U.S. economy is doing okay. The U.S. economy in many other parts are not doing all that great, but because of this, U.S. economy is doing great. It's held up. But for that to continue, these guys have to make money, and plenty of money to justify the expenses they are putting in. And that gets me to worry a little bit about what happened 25 years ago with the IT boom. Remember the IT boom 25 years ago? Wow, the share prices went sky high. Everybody was so excited that all the computers can talk to each other and now we can communicate so easily all around the world. Of course, that IT boom transformed the entire way we do business, the way we communicate all around the world. That was great. But those guys are not making all that much money at that time. And of course, we experienced this huge drop in share prices. Was Amazon prices down 90% or something at that time? So we might be in for that kind of adjustments going forward. Adjustments will not slow down the AI revolution. The adjustment of share prices in year 2000 did not slow down the IT revolution. So chips are still needed, data centers are still needed, but there might be adjustments going forward, and we should be not expose ourselves too much, not put all the eggs into one basket, because when the adjustments come, it could be quite painful at that time. Now, as I said earlier, I am not an expert on AI, so I like to talk about the other two, which also affect this part of the world very strongly. And one is the energy crisis that started with United States attacking Iran, and the other one is the protectionism, which is kind of quiet at the moment, but I don't think this is going to go away. And both of these affect this part of the world more than any other parts of the world, because Asia is dependent so much on energy and oil supplies from the Strait of Hormuz. And in terms of protectionism, Asia is very much affected because Asia benefited most from the free trade system that Americans put together after 1948, the so-called GATT system. If there were no free trade, the way the Americans put together back in 1948, none of us would be here today talking about all these things, because the economy would have grown much, much slower. So I like to talk about these two. Then the first one is the energy crisis. How did we get into this mess? Well, in order to understand what's happening in the Middle East, we have to go back to 2015. So what happened in 2015? 2015, President Obama of the United States, together with the United Nations entire Security Council members, plus the EU, plus Germany, all together negotiated with Iran to come up with denuclearization of Iranian armed forces. So this agreement was put together in 2015. It took 20 months of very careful negotiations. And based on that agreement, Iran actually moved quite a bit of their enriched uranium out of the country, as was specified in the agreement. And so Iran was moving to enter the global community of countries. Other countries are beginning to remove sanctions against Iran. So we were moving forward. And then on 2018, Donald Trump comes along and he basically abrogates the entire arrangement, pulls the United States away from Iran and away from this agreement and put the sanctions back on. Now put yourself in the position of Iranians, right? You agree to this agreement. You already shipped the uranium out of the country, to Russia in this case. And then the Americans abrogates everything and then put the sanctions back on. Well, then perhaps Russians have to return the enriched uraniums back to Iran, but of course that did not happen. Such an unreliable partner. And starting from there, everything started going in the wrong direction. And so, if I may compare where we are today with where President Obama was 2015, you see a very big difference. In 2015, when President Obama was putting together this agreement, all U.S. allies were with the United States. And the United Nations was very much with the United States because it was the entire Security Council negotiating with the Iranians. Even China and Russia were on board. It's hard to imagine, but that was actually true. And that's why Russia was able to accept these uranium from Iran. Iranian moderates outnumber the hardliners. What do I mean by that? For Iran to accept this 2015 agreement, they had to pass the parliament. And at the parliament, of course, there were hardliners and the moderates. Moderates wanted an agreement so that Iran can enter the global community of countries. Hardliners said, no, these guys cannot be trusted. We, the Revolutionary Guards, have to go our own way, and we have to have nuclear weapons, especially since Israel has nuclear weapons as well. So there was a big debate for like 3 months in Iran, Tehran. But at the end, when the vote was taken, it was 161 to 59. So the moderates won, hardliners lost. So there were more moderates than hardliners at that time. And at that time, the United States was considered a very reliable partner for negotiation. The only group that was not part of this arrangement was Israel. It's a very bottom one. Mr. Netanyahu and Israelis were not very happy. They should have been harder, more strict on Iran. Well, today, Donald Trump is facing the situation where, as you can see, U.S. allies are not on board. Every one of the U.S. allies wanted to keep a distance on this war with Iran. United Nations, of course, not involved. China and Russia, of course, not involved. And Iranian moderates outnumber hardliners? Not a chance. Because those 161 votes that moderates were able to get, they looked very stupid after Trump pulled the United States out of the agreement. And hardliners at the time says, I told you so, these Americans cannot be trusted. So now the entire Iran is run by hardliners. No moderates left. This is Trump's own making. And is the United States considered credible? Of course, it's the same Trump who pulled the United States out of that agreement. And when the United States started the war, February 28th this year, nothing that happens on February 28th is good, but that one was pretty bad. United States and Iran were still negotiating. So while they're still negotiating, Americans and Israelis start attacking Iran. How do you feel if you're Iranian at that time? You're in the middle of negotiation, they drop bombs and start killing you. The same thing happened actually with the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Right at that time, U.S. and Japan were still negotiating. While negotiating, Japan started attacking Pearl Harbor. That really galvanized Americans who were against the war at that time into fighting the Japanese. So the slogan at that time was, "Remember Pearl Harbor." That's the slogan. Same thing is happening in Iran. We were supposed to be negotiating, and then you drop bomb on us. How can you trust even for 1 minute? That's basically the situation now. And so what happened is that we are in a very difficult situation compared to 2015. But this last entry, Israel's Netanyahu, for him, the whole purpose of having this war is to make sure that the new agreement with Iran is much better than the old one. So Trump is stuck in a situation. Trump is stuck in a situation where Israel is very much run by hardliners, and Netanyahu is a hardliner, very extreme hardliner. Iran is run by the hardliners, and then one in the middle, Trump, is not trusted by the Iranians at all. So this is where we started. And I think Trump's thinking was that, yeah, situation is pretty difficult, but if I can beat the Iranian military all at once in this massive military attack on the first few days, Iranians will give up. And if the Iranians give up, then everything will be fine. That was his thinking. And it's Netanyahu, Israel, who told the Iranians that if you push them hard enough, hit them hard enough, they will give up. So Trump basically bet on that assessment, military assessment, provided probably by Israel. Because I know that the U.S. military was not so sure. U.S. military actually warned President Trump that once Iran survives the initial attack and start controlling the Strait of Hormuz, we're going to be in big trouble. And I actually visited Washington April of this year to talk with these people. And they were all saying, yes, we warned the president that once the war starts and Iran takes over the Strait of Hormuz, we're going to be in very bad situation. Of all the people I talked to, none of them was optimistic. All of them are saying, this will end badly. So basically, Trump listened to the Netanyahu's military assessment, bet on the military assessment, but it didn't work. It failed. Iranian government is still there, run by hardliners. So now, Trump is really stuck, right? You bet on this strategy, it actually failed. But then, from here is another story in that Trump did something only Donald Trump could do. He decided to make a 180-degree turn. He started bashing Netanyahu. And he started using the words like, you're fucking crazy. You know, that's not the kind of word that President of the United States are supposed to use to your allies. But he publicly said all of that things, basically to remove United States away from Israel. And he basically agreed to everything the hardliners were demanding in Iran. Because he realized that there's only hardliners left in Iran. So if you want to end the war, you have to negotiate with the hardliners because there are no more moderates left. So basically, Trump made this huge turn, accept all the conditions that hardliners put on board, then bashed Israel, and end this agreement by the Evian Summit in France for G7 countries. Why? Because if you get this agreement in time for the Evian Summit and submit it to all the other G7 members, of course, say, oh, this is great, the war is coming to an end. then he has a credibility again by saying, look, I ended the war. G7 countries are all with us, with me. So Israel, you shut up. That's basically how he handled the situation. Ordinary persons probably would never come to this kind of actions because, you know, you are losing face, you're surrendering to the Iranians, and you're going against the Israeli interest. But to Mr. Trump, getting the deal done is everything. And we should have known that this is likely to happen because remember February of last year when Trump was meeting Zelensky in White House? Trump actually said, I can end this war in one day. And most people were not, wondering what that meant. Well, on that February meeting with Zelensky, we realized what he meant when he said he can end the war in one day. It literally meant Ukraine to surrender. If Ukraine surrenders, the war will end in one day. But at that time, Ukrainians were very upset. Europeans were very against it, so that did not happen. But this time, it was the turn of the United States. United States is the person to make that decision, and Trump made that decision. Okay, let's accept all the demands from the hardliners and end this conflict. So that's where we are now. Only Trump could have come to this kind of conclusion. What's going to happen next? Well, from this point onwards until the end of the 60-day period, the 60-day period, I am sure, will be extended because coming up with this kind of nuclear agreement, you have to go through very little details, one by one. And the last agreement, with everyone working so hard in good faith, still took 20 months. So this one, I'm sure, will take much longer than 60 days, unless Trump says, okay, just do everything that Obama did and we go with that. But during this period, Trump will have to appear very strong against Iran and very strong against Israel. He has to appear strong against Iran to make sure that Iran will not keep on adding more conditions, knowing that Trump is in a very bad situation. So in order to stop that from happening, he will have to appear very strong against Iran. And the most recent military action against Iran shows that, yes, Trump made this big decision, but that was the bottom line. He will not move any further. So that's action. And then Trump will also have to come up very strong against Israel. And when the J.D. Vance, the vice president, said 2/3 of Israeli budgets, defense budgets, are actually paid by American taxpayers, and I couldn't believe that he actually said that. But he said it to prove that who is the boss. We are paying your defense. 2/3 of your defense is paid by American taxpayers. So I'm the boss. You listen. It's an amazing statement coming out of the U.S. president because although most Americans knew that something like that was happening, no one actually ever came out and openly said 2/3 is our payment. So that's the way he's trying to contain the situation. And hopefully we get to the end with something reasonable. I'm sure the deadline for the negotiation will be extended because even under the best of circumstances, these negotiations are very, very difficult. Unless they just copy the entire Obama agreement on top, this is going to take longer. But the fact that Trump made this 180 change means that he will probably stick to it. And hopefully we will get to the goal without too many difficulties in between. I'm sure there will be a lot of things, and Israelis and Hezbollah in Lebanon and all these problems are still very controversial. But I'm hoping that now that Trump made this big decision, very difficult decision, as he said when he was signing the agreement, I hope it holds. Then the next question is, how did we end up with someone like Trump, who is reckless, crazy in so many different ways? He has legal problems, other problems everywhere. How did someone like that got elected not just once but twice in the United States. And even now, he's enjoying quite a bit of power among certain parts of the US population. And here, I would say that the establishment in the United States, meaning Democrats and traditional Republicans, the Republicans before Trump came, that establishment really screwed up one thing. And that one thing is US trade deficit.
好他现在讲到的地方呢是美国贸易逆差，已经是第二个话题了，我们就今天先这个打住，因为已经20多分钟了啊。我跟大家来聊一下我个人的一些简单的看法。那他呢在这个伊朗战事的这个事情上呢，他认为川普现在是处境非常的尴尬，有点收不了手。那么他也提到了这个接下来的60天，他们要谈判也不会那么容易做到。那么60天以后可能还会延长。那现在大家也知道，美国的股市的话呢，在伊朗现在继续在就经常时不时的有出来折腾这个骚扰霍尔木兹海峡，美国呢时不时的去轰炸一下。那么这种情况呢，市场已经有所免疫了。那么这个呢，我跟我之前说的一样，我觉得这个战争总归是一开始的时候啊，就是对市场对它最敏感，到后面的话呢就会习惯啊。但这个事情可能不会，确实是不会马上收手。那我个人的观点啊，我觉得在他刚才说的这个里边的话呢，我们也听到了一些比较独到的一些观点然后呢也有一些信息然后比如说他提到了这个万兹副总统说了这个以色列的2/3的国防费用是美国提供的。那这个呢很有意思啊，他说这个大家都隐隐约约知道这件事情，但是从来没有哪一个总统公开说这个事儿。那这个呢，我就觉得万斯的话呢，就是忠诚度是够的啊，就是冲在川普前面，要去表现一下他们的这个共同的这个共同的价值观但是这个的表达的方式的话呢可能会有一些肯定会有一些多多少少有一些副作用的。所以在这件事情上，我觉得就观察到现在还是那个，我觉得卢比奥是比较成熟的，而且我觉得从其他的几件事情上面来看的话，卢比奥基本上就是比较客观，然后的话呢，虽然他说话也非常的这个凶狠但是呢，就是比较不露破绽。我觉得下一届总统很有可能是卢比奥，那这个是题外话我个人的一些偏见然后呢，我觉得顾朝明他提到了这个提到了美国在做这些决策的话，应该是他觉得川普这样子的一个性格做了一些比较奇怪的一些，只有他做得出来的一种反反复复然后的话呢，让他们把美国从这个原来2015年达成的这个协议这样子的一个group一种群体当中的撤出来使得这个他们的伊朗的温和派没有了这个事实基础不被信任，被弄下台了之后呢，现在尤其是现在发动了这个进攻之后的话呢，全部是强硬派来控制伊朗的政府。那么现在越谈越谈不下去，现在只能是这样子不停的这样折腾下去。那我觉得这个事情有的时候可能还有一些我们不知道的，就比如说这个卢比奥之前说过他在回答这个问题的时候，他说很简单，就是说情报你们不知道怎么做情报的情报不是这么做的，军方得到的情报就是他们要马上要大批量的生产核武器，还有一些无人机如果等到他们明年这个时候的话，他们的数量我们已经遏制不住了，到时候的话美国会付出不可能付出的代价也遏制不住它了那么这个呢他就是之前是这么来回答。所以呢，我觉得在这种情况下，是不是有可能美国现在已经在军事决策上面已经做了一个评估，就是说2015年这件事他们伊朗那边就彻底打算不遵守了现在就是长鹰派事实上已经在行动上面已经控制了他们未来的一个决策了。那所以如果是在这种情况下的话呢，他们觉得没有办法，必须要先把威胁核武器摧毁，然后再跟伊朗谈判，可能是 有的时候我们稍微漏掉一点信息，可能情况就是反面的。当然，我也不是说一定会是这样啊，也许顾超明说的这个方式是对的，但是我觉得他大部分是在判断这件事情发生之后啊。我现在刚才说的是这件事情怎么会突然出现这么一个转折点，突然进攻嘛，对吧？所以，他在这件事情发生之后，目前采取的这些策略其实是一贯的啊，包括川普的行动也是一贯的，他就是这么个脾气啊。包括川普跟乌克兰跟泽连斯基去谈，大家都没猜到他要去劝泽连斯基投降，这样子的事情的话呢，反反复复的话，这种作风都是一贯的啊，这个是没问题。我刚才提到的是指在美国发动攻击之前，是不是他们做了军事评估，在 Plan 1、Plan 2、Plan 3上面的话，是有这么一个情况出现。那么，如果既然要发动进攻，要摧毁他们的这个核武器的话，啊，就是有可能做核武器的这些浓缩铀设施的话，那么是不是美国他认为，呃，那些强硬派现在当时的那个哈梅内伊和他的幕僚，是更加会具有统治力和更加会煽动全伊朗的反抗情绪，所以在他们就一开始发动进攻的时候呢，先把他们的这个开会聚集的地方一下子一锅给端掉了。就是说这么是来推理的。那么至少他现在这个核心的这强硬派的核心组织被断掉了，接下来的话呢，是一盘散沙。那其实一盘散沙这个情况的话呢，其实大部分人都能够理解有些人可以预料到，大部分都能理解，就是像这种国家，它又幅员辽阔，比较宽广，然后呢，原来培育出来的很多强硬派的这些强硬派的这个徒孙孙的这些，他还会继续揭竿而起正好趁这个机会，说不定他能够上台。这个就是现在面临这个情况，所以呢，这个乱哄哄的情况确实是估计不是那么容易收拾，即便是温和派被扶植起来的话，也不是那么容易的，我觉得。那当然，我觉得美国现在会采取什么措施呢？就是打打弄弄的话呢，就继续保持就是如果伊朗这边冒头有什么军事设施冒出来了，或者是有什么强硬派的这些人来骚扰霍尔木兹海峡呢，继续就进行轰炸、进行打击，把他的军事力量全部都摧毁。我觉得之前可能摧毁了90%，可能剩下来10%，接下来在冒头的时候他就继续摧毁，包括强硬派冒头的这些人。我觉得这个可能是美国现在采取的一个措施啊。那之前说的川普运了这么多兵过去呢，我现在感觉他是不想用了我觉得这个事情是川普比较鸡贼的地方，他没有把他运过去的这个陆军空降师和特种作战部队派到陆地战场，我觉得这件事情是他很鸡贼的。他是真的心里其实也挺害怕打地面战争的。虽然我当时我也分析，我说他可能会一定要去把浓缩铀给拿出来。现在我觉得他们可能也有另外一个办法，就是这个炸毁了的浓缩铀一时半会儿这个地下的情况也是乱哄哄的一团糟。因为美国有全球最先进的卫星这些监控的这些设施是吧？那伊朗现在在干什么事情，他们其实都知道。如果他们收拾伊朗的当地的这些组织收拾的差不多的话，美国可能以后还有机会再去弄。如果他们又把这个浓缩铀去开始搞起来的话，那么可能美国再去轰炸。反正美国现在我觉得川普他是非常，包括川普的团队，他们是非常不想陷入人员被伊朗抓住的这种情况。就以往美国跟国外打战争的话都是这样，因为他们的人命就是他们的这个部队他们的军人是对生命都非常的，就全美国人对军人的生命都非常的在乎，所以呢，他非常不希望把这个人质落在对方的手上，所以呢，他一直都没有派地面部队。我觉得这个是他比较鸡贼的。美国现在这样子时不时的打2颗导弹、无人机轰炸一下的话呢，我觉得这个是可能会持续一段时间啊。所以我觉得也没什么大惊小怪的。当然呢，这个事情我们只能静观其变吧，静观其变。那么好，今天我们就对前面这段事情说到这儿。那第二部分的话呢，顾朝明他已经说了，怎么会这么一个奇怪的总统会做了连任2届？因为美国呢搞砸了一件大事，就是说在几十年前1980年代开始就把贸易逆差这个事搞砸了。那这个呢，我们下一次再跟大家分享。我觉得他这个说的一篇比一篇要精彩。 啊。前面说这个美国、伊朗、以色列这个事情呢，有点像八卦是吧？随便聊聊。这个呢，啊、我觉得是他的理论架构里面比较重要的一个组成部分，因为顾超明他是经历过他年轻的时候是完全经历过那个时代广场协议啊。OK，好吧，那在这里也感谢一下这个频道财讯他这一篇顾超明的这个好像是他们组织的这个论坛吧，我觉得这个视频是蛮有水平的。OK，好，祝我们早日财富自由啊！今天没有谈到具体的股票希望这个美国经济不要出什么大问题。好，我们下次再见。今天就分享到这里，拜拜。嗨。